No one ever said freedom was easy. In fact, it can mean something totally different for each one of us or impact our lives on so many different levels. Freedom is not about having the freedom to do whatever you want. It's about finding your way to do what you want or what's important to you or what's driving you and to enjoy doing it. Hey, Michelle O'Neill here, and I can't wait to talk about something so near and dear to my heart here on Monday Mastery Moments with Michelle. Freedom! There are so many facets of the freedom road that I could go into and go down, but I won't. In fact, when I was thinking about what I wanted to actually say, I started thinking of all the ways that we can embrace freedom in our lives. So for the sake of our conversation today, freedom is about setting boundaries, which means that you will never find yourself in a situation where someone else controls or manipulates you. Setting these limits doesn't mean that people can't push against them, but setting boundaries prepares you for those moments because it tells you where your starting point is for negotiation. Setting limits is a way to learn more about yourself and what you need in order to feel fulfilled. Knowing our boundaries will help us bring our best selves to our relationships and our every aspect of our lives. And you will hear me going back and forth between the two words, limits and boundaries. But more on that later. The more we set boundaries, the clearer we become about who we are and what we want. Boundaries can also help us avoid feeling depleted and overgiving and oversharing. And nowadays, it's becoming more and more difficult for us to set limits because of the numerous, there's so many options out there that are available to us. And in order to create boundaries in our everyday life, we need to start by creating a list of what you want. This list will help you prioritize your needs and wants in a way that is achievable. Limits are one of the most empowering truths that we could ever learn. They are not something to be feared. They are an opportunity to find creative solutions. The word limit is a term that we don't often associate with success. We tend to think of limits as something negative, but in reality, the opposite is true. Limiting yourself in certain ways can actually be your key to success. You see, limit is the restriction you have set, and boundary is how you enforce that limit. Limits allow for a boundary to be placed on a specific action or behavior. A good example is to set a limit on maybe not allowing others to take advantage of your time without it actually being scheduled. And the boundary to help you enforce this is something like your calendar or even a preset conversation you have with yourself. Things like, I won't make any snap decisions regardless of my availability without checking my calendar and my schedule. You see, you've already set that in your mind. The action then becomes sending a link to your calendar when someone requests your time and taking a breath and saying, let me see when I'm available, or simply saying no. And those are just a few examples. The point is, you have actions that you can put in place to prevent your limit from being infringed upon and to help you adhere to it as well. Having these limitations and setting the necessary boundaries gives us the freedom to do more of what we want, when we want to, and also to help us become organized and efficient. My favorite. Setting limits for yourself also helps us move towards the things that are most important for us. You know, look, we are in a world where everyone is fighting for time and energy, our greatest commodity. And the biggest problem with this is that it is hard to say no when there's an opportunity right before us. We end up binding ourselves to things that are urgent, but not necessarily important, instead of attending to the truly important things. You see, we all need to set boundaries in our lives and embrace freedom. You know, I am so glad you took a few minutes to join me today on Monday Mastery Moments. And if you haven't already, take a few minutes and visit Mastering Your Monday podcast, episode 24. School's in session, holidays are coming, and what about some me time? You know, it is jammed packed with great tips and tricks, and it's worth the listen. Take the time to comment below also and share your thoughts and ahas with me. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Look, I am looking forward to seeing you next week as we come together to master on Monday and build a life where there is success without the sacrifice. Bye-bye. Take care.